What was that first EDC gear item that really got you down to the rabbit hole? It's not that it was so good that I was like, EDC is sick and now I'm in the rabbit hole. It was so bad that I thought there must be something better.
I've been catching up on old articles from Watches of Espionage. He's a former CIA case officer who's like, I think people put way too much thought into everyday carry and not enough into mindset, training, and physical fitness.
Erickson F asks, what are the basics for a good everyday carry? When people say cover your bases, they just mean have some kind of tool that can perform a functionality for a use case that you need. A multi-tool to cover a bunch of stuff, a flashlight to cover your illumination, a knife, a dedicated knife to handle cutting tasks, right? What's up, everyone? Welcome to Carry the Way, the weekly podcast where we nerd out about all things EDC gear and maybe try to teach you a thing or two while we're at it. I'm Bernard, the founder of everydaycarry.com, and I'm joined by our editor, Mikey.
Hello.
So if you're new to the show, welcome. Here we talk about the latest in EDC gear, answer questions from the community, and review pocket dump submissions from our viewers. And if you've listened before, we just want to say thank you so much for the support. And just a reminder to give a thumbs up to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, as it really helps the channel. So we're in the new year, 2025. Let's start with a pocket check. Mikey, why don't you kick it off?
New year and episode 52, exactly the 1 year mark, huh?
Something like that. We probably took a few breaks here and there, but like that is a solid year's worth of episodes, I would say.
1 year's worth of episodes. So I have some thoughts. I was telling you before we started recording that this break has been kind of like an eye opener for me. In not particularly positive. It's more of like a very reflective and somber thoughts.
Okay, before we start, this is like not fun EDC gear, right?
No, well,
okay,
no, well, okay. Well, I'll let the audience decide.
Sure.
So a couple of my holidays are usually kind of somber. I kind of take it pretty seriously because serious stuff usually happens around this time for me. So I got to thinking, rather than thinking about new gear or thinking about the process of acquiring new gear, I just thought of like the whole philosophy of EDC, our journey in EDC for the past 10 years, 15 years now for in your case, the past year's worth of recording this show. Came out of three things. I kind of had like ghost of EDC past, present, and future moment.
Sure. Okay.
So I have three kind of general ideas that I took away from the holiday break. So number one is you can't take it with you. And why am I focusing on that? This is my ghost of EDC past, I guess. It's basically not to get into any more details, but I have some family that is not doing so well.
Sure.
And that always gets me thinking that you can't take all of this with you. You can have the biggest collection in the world, and if you're at any moment, literally at any moment, you're just gone.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with all this stuff? Somebody's just gonna be left with all of your trash and all of your stuff that is I guess it is part of your taste. It is part of your representation. It is part of what made you uninteresting. It's a part of what made it's the stuff you surround yourself with, right? It's representative of you. But at the end of the day, you can't take it with you. So that really put the brakes again, as it always does for me when stuff like this happens. It put the brakes, and it really always puts me in a reflective mood about what am I doing? Why am I not just appreciating what I have and in the time that that I'm given, and just focus on living life and focus on the more important stuff? Not that enjoying these objects is any less important, but I mean, like I said, you can't take it with you. So that's my kind of ghost of EDC past. The ghost of EDC present is just the current state of things for me. Not everything has been positive the past few weeks. It's really, like I said, it's been a really reflective time, and it really got to me in a quote that I read in an article from. We're gonna bringing him up later in the show, but I've been catching up on old articles from Watches of Espionage. He started out. He's a former CIA case officer who started a very popular Instagram account about watches and the whole industry and spycraft and all of that. And one of his articles, he has a Q&A, and then in that Q&A, I shared this with you a couple of weeks ago. He was like, I think people put way too much thought into everyday carry and not enough into mindset training and physical fitness. And I think
Ooh.
the way he's framing it in the sense that people are thinking too much about the gear rather than what you're using the gear
How to
for,
use the gear.
rather than preparing to use the gear or training with the gear or
Hmm.
getting familiar and being more intimate with the gear and putting them to use and making yourself more useful with that gear rather than
Right.
the gear in itself as a solution. So
Yeah.
that's also
The gear should supplement your own utility and agency and efficacy into the world rather than be
yeah.
the sole source of it.
Yeah, and also
I see.
the gear itself is never going to improve, right? It's always going to be a flashlight. It's always going to be a knife, but the
Hmm.
wielder, the owner, can has room for improvement, has room for um, reflection, has room for more potential, basically
Sure.
unlimited potential using any number of tools. So that combined with the fact that you can't take it with you, just really dampened my whole. It not really kind of killed my vibe. It's more of it really made me stop and really think about. I should be just appreciating, just like what you've been talking about for a few episodes now,
The
just
past
content
50 episodes or so,
past
huh?
50 episode, yeah,
Yeah.
just content pilling yourself and appreciating. I've caught myself that we are getting a lot of stuff now, a lot of samples from brands. I'm catching myself like I'm opening something, oh, nice new knife, and then I just put it on the shelf, and then I don't think about it for the next month or so, just
Yeah.
because it went into the other pile of other knives that I haven't touched in a couple of weeks and a couple of months, and I hate that. I
Mm.
really love all of this stuff, but just the fact that it's coming in hard and fast, and it's also in such a quantity, I'm finding myself not appreciating all of it enough, and I hate that. I want to enjoy using it. I want to use all
Mm.
of it more. I want to carry all of it more, and yeah, that's just these two so far have been putting me into that mood of I really should just stop and take a breather and take these out of the box and enjoy them and play with them and use them and
Sure.
all of that. Yeah. And
So,
finally,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask what's the ghost of EDC Future telling you?
Yeah. Yeah. So Ghost of EDC Future. I started thinking about what's next for me,
Hmm.
not just for EDC, but just for life in general. What's next for me? And out of like completely nowhere, I was watching a random video about a YouTuber covering some knucklehead influencer on TikTok. Just you know those annoyance. What do you call those? The annoying real life YouTubers or TikTokers who they're nuisance streamers. There you go. That's the term.
No,
Nuisance streamers.
I sorry, I don't watch that kind of stuff, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't
No,
know.
no.
Yeah.
I'm covering the guy covering the nuisance streamers. I don't
Oh,
watch
like
them.
okay, so like
Yeah.
reaction content to nuisance streamers.
Yeah. And just giving
Okay.
an update that they got arrested or whatever. So basically,
Mm.
this guy, the channel is Atozy, Atozy. He was talking about this one guy who just ruined his life by becoming a gambling streamer, basically.
Oh,
Just totally ruined his life. And then out of nowhere, he's like, maybe he should. He said in the episode, he's like, maybe he should just stop, just take uh, note of his life. Maybe he should redo his entire career, get in a deep sea fishing boat because apparently there's a whole career as a
that's
part
very
of.
lucrative, I think. It's
I
just
know,
hard.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he said. And one of his comments said was like, "That's a very Norwegian thing to say. Let's just get on a deep sea fishing boat and make
Uh-huh.
that a career." And then I started looking into it. Right, there is actually nearby in New Zealand. There's a whole career track starting from on your first day on the boat all the way up to captain and stuff. There's an entire industry and career surrounding deep sea fishing, and I just I don't know, just like daydreaming about the fact. What if I just left everything?
Yeah,
I
are you
just
putting in
dropped
your
every.
notice right now, Mikey?
No, 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 no,
Are you not
no.
going to be on the next episode? What's going on here?
No, no, no.
Uh-huh.
I just imagined a life for myself. What if something happened like totally cataclysmic or totally life
Mhm.
changing for me that I just wanted to fall off the earth? It suddenly sounded really appealing to just disconnect, not be contactable for like months at a time. Just be one with the sea on a deep sea fishing boat and acquiring skills and completely having that moment of reflection and isolation and just completely like a totally
Yes.
different change from
Yeah.
a
The
cave
masculine
dwelling.
urge to become, yeah, in complete solitude. Yeah, there are
Yeah.
books written about this. Like lots of thinkers have done this. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, I started thinking about what if I just strip my entire collection down to the essential things that I would take on said Norwegian deep sea fishing boat?
Mm-hmm.
What would my knife be? What would my watch be? Or do I even still take a phone with me? Oh, well, obviously, I'll leave it on land or whatever. But on the
Yeah.
boat, what am I? What are the tools I'm taking with me? And that also got me into that, combined with the Ghost of
You can't take
EDC
it with
test.
you.
I
Yeah.
can't take it with you. What are the tools that are absolutely essential, and what I would use on this thought exercise of my deep sea fishing boat? And yeah, so I have been on a mental deep sea fishing boat for the past few weeks, just reflecting, just being
Nice.
somber, just keeping it real and not thinking about spending so damn much more on gear
Yeah.
and stuff, and just reframing the whole thought about how we approach thinking about gear and how to use them and how to carry them. So that is my very intense pocket check.
So that is the intended result of me dragging you onto the show for the past year and just talking the way that I do, and now you get it. Now you get it. So
Yeah.
let's unpack some of this pretty quickly. So I mean that was there. I guess there's no pocket check involved there. It's more like a
No.
mental check. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there are three things that stuck out to you in our holiday break. The first one was the idea that you can't take it with you, and I think this idea of that these things won't last forever, and they're there to serve you in your own life and not be like the main thing you think about during your life. They're just supposed to be part of it.
Mm.
What does that challenge for you? What is that a realization that what did it wake you up from then?
Mindless accumulation
Yeah, because
and
that
the
that that might be like a common sort of feeling amongst people that might watch the show, right? If it's like this happens, I think to all enthusiasts, you always want that next
mm,
shiny thing. You kind of want to accumulate. You want to make a collection, but then sort of it's just a moment to think like, what is the collection for? What does it do for you? And then
yeah,
are you okay with the fact that it won't last forever? It will change over time. You will change over time, and there is the risk that you will be separated from those things, right?
yeah.
That's kind of it
Or they
sounds
will
like that's
be,
kind of what you're getting at.
yeah, or also being okay with them being separated from you.
Sure.
We had talked about the past few, I think it was in the last episode, where I mentioned that suddenly something clicked, and then I don't really care if my gear gets scratched or anything, or if
Yeah,
my
yeah.
watch, if something breaks, I just, I can fix it or have it repaired, and that just move on with my life, rather than, oh my god, my titanium knife has a snail trail on it, uh-oh. Rather
Mm-hmm.
than having that sort of hyper focus, it's just like, now all of them suddenly, like, I see the matrix, they're all just tools to me now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, and for even though the luster of it, the surface level luster of it has worn off, the utility underneath has come shining through. I think that's the important,
Mm-hmm.
the switch there. So yeah, just being at peace with the fact that you can't take it all with you, plus it can be separated with you at any time. What if you lose your favorite knife? What if your favorite watch breaks? um
Yeah.
just being okay with that mindset of, it's just stuff, you could probably
Right,
replace
right.
it with something. Learn to love another knife, learn to maybe get the watch repaired and stuff, and not be too hyper focused on keeping everything pristine, or keep having an ideal of the tool,
Exactly.
rather than, yeah.
And I think part of where this comes from is, especially now, like the way that we discover these new products and see this is shared usually through social media or some kind
Mm,
of like online consumption, right? And that is always shown the idealized version of that thing, right? It's like the
true.
new product page, like the brand new unboxing video where everything's
The
pristine,
lifestyle
right?
photos,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's not gonna and we see it as soon as it comes out. Like we're sort of implicit in this process, right? Or complicit in this process,
Complicit, yeah.
where we do the unboxing videos, or like we're showing you guys on the news segment, hey, this is the new thing that showed, and it's like not the well worn, like carried for many years, like
Mm,
the kind of expectation versus reality thing. So I think
yeah, yeah,
like when you're exposed to that a lot, you kind of value the idealized version of it, the pristine version of it, and it's harder for you to accept that this stuff's going to get beat up ideally. And there, I bet you there are like thousands of people listening to this where they're just like, yeah, I don't think about this at all. Of course it's going to get beat up. They're not shelf
Yeah.
queens. I like when
Yeah.
things are beat up, and we get that too. But I do think that there's probably some amount of listeners that do maybe cling too heavily to just keeping everything perfect and pristine.
Yep.
And especially if they're coming from this place of like, oh, I want to keep it in the best condition for as long as possible. It's like, but why though? Is there some kind of aversion to the damage and use and stuff over time? Maybe, but I think with this realization of you for this Ghost of Christmas or EDC Pass that you can't take it with you, that it's just about softening up that grip of like everything needs to be kind of perfect, and then you just use it for what it is and you enjoy it for what it is, however that might be, imperfections and all. So
Yeah.
I think that's a
Imperfections and all. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's a great sort of intention to take with your gear. And because EDC is so personal, I always feel that like the stuff you think about when it comes to your gear can just really like trace back upstream to you and your life as the person, which leads into the second point of the quote from Watches of Espionage that's kind of saying it's not necessarily the gear that makes you a useful, effective person in the world, right? It's just there to supplement your existing internal innate sort of efficacy in how you engage with the world, right?
Yeah.
So there are ways that you can improve your own utility, your own performance, your own effectiveness, and especially in the ways that you think about how you use your tools, your skill expression with those tools, the sense of responsibility, decision making, those mental state, mental clarity, focus, all of that stuff will enhance how you use your EDC and your tools.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess that I think will track or maybe resonate with a lot of people now, early beginning of the year, who are trying to like lock in, work on their goals, better themselves. It's like that new year, new me kind of effect.
Dude,
So maybe just keep
I,
that in mind when it comes
just
to your EDC stuff. Mm-hmm.
coming back from out of town, like I've not seen that many joggers on the street
Uh,
as the January 1st phenomenon.
yeah,
Everybody's in the gym,
kind of
everybody's on the road.
strange. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just at the gym last night and I was like, man, I hope I can find parking because it's like January, what, 2nd or something. It was like pretty dead. So maybe people aren't back from vacation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And then how do we want to summarize this last point about your deep sea fishing fantasy?
Go on that boat in your head. Like
Okay.
think about go on that boat, think about a situation in your life maybe that you would
Mhm.
find yourself considering being on that boat, what your life on that boat would be like, what you would take on that boat with you, and how you'd be useful, and what kind of person you'd be at the end of a long deep sea fishing expedition. I think
Interesting. But not literally the boat. The boat is a
no, not literally
metaphor.
the boat
Yes.
is a metaphor, or is it? Maybe. But yeah,
Yeah.
go on that fishing expedition and be alone with your thoughts, disconnect for a bit, and think about your tools and yourself and your improvement, and maybe that'll give some framework on how to start the year and how to approach
Hmm.
EDC, with a fresh mind,
Sure.
fresh off of the fishing boat. Yeah.
That's kind of, I think that's
No, no,
offensive,
no.
Mikey.
I no, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That
Okay.
just completely by accident.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we can move away from the boat analogy,
Yeah.
and just like, what does the boat represent, right? To me, a boat represents, or sorry, not the boat, but the shore. The shore represents all the, your identities, your self concept, the things you tell yourself, the narratives, the roles you have to play, the responsibilities, your obligations. What if you were to uproot all those things and give yourself kind of the space and permission to say, I'm going to go on a little trip away from all that and let myself truly like kind of get to know myself in almost a vacuum, almost, right? Just
Yeah.
pure relationship to yourself. What does that look like? And then what would
Mm,
I need and what would I want to do? What would I want to be by the end of it? That sounds like the deep sea fishing trip, right? But
mm.
more broad. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. That's
I also
crazy.
recently rewatched. I don't know if you've seen the movie Secret Life of Walter Mitty, where
No.
he kind of got forced. He's
To like
basically a
travel and stuff.
regular. Yeah, he's basically like the regular office worker, vanilla kind of guy.
Yeah.
But in his head, he always goes into these. He daydreams about becoming a super spy, going into like doing heroic rescuing babies out of buildings and type of thing. And then as a result of something part of his job, he got forced to take on a mega adventure. He literally got into the fishing boat. He went hiking into the mountains.
Hmm.
He saw a ghost leopard as part of the story. And then it was all getting out of his comfort zone and really living life for the first time. And then yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. But yeah, people should check out the Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway,
Cool. Thank you for the
that's it for
thoughts.
my pocket check.
Yeah. Um, have I been living life? I don't know. Maybe. Well, I did get some new gear. If anybody who listens to the show is interested in that, I don't know anymore. But for Christmas, I got this new like strap from Deluxe. I think
Hmm.
they're a Singaporean-based
I've been
watch
seeing ads
strap and
about them.
accessories
Yeah.
company. If it will focus, not on my face. Yeah. So this is I think the Barenia leather. I think it's a calf leather signature strap, so it kind of has like this like padded rounded thing. But what I like about Deluxe straps is that they're pretty like high quality, well made. They have like a specially designed I think it's called a tang, this thing, uh so that it doesn't stretch out because it has like this hooked curve thing instead of straight, like a
Oh,
straight
okay.
thing, so it doesn't
Okay.
bend the strap in the way that a straight tang would, or pin, I think.
It doesn't expand the leather, the hole.
Yeah. It does, or sorry, it doesn't like bend it like, I don't know, in a weird way on the other side of the strap. And then also custom, you can get like different lengths because I have
Hmm.
a pretty small wrist, 16 centimeter, which is like 6.25 inch. So
Hmm.
most standard straps, like when I wear them, it shows so much of the tail sticking through. And I've been
Uh,
really warming up to straps instead of bracelets recently. I think I'm just like becoming old. Like I just want like small watches on leather straps, and it's just like not very EDC. But I mean, this is like this is my first Grand Seiko. This is the SPG W289. It will
hmm.
show, yeah. It's like a pink dial, but yeah, this we got it on strap here.
I'll always remember you with that watch.
Yeah. So maybe this is the forever watch. I don't know. But it's been nice to wear it on this, and I got this for Christmas. And it has a quick release spring bars, so you can like easily change straps, which is pretty cool. And I don't know, I kind of just want to get a bunch more from them, which is maybe, I don't know, the trap of it, where you get like one nice strap and then you see their assortment and you're like, dang, I want more like materials and stuff, and
But
colors. But
that also feeds into appreciating the same watch just in a different, in a different
I
strap.
don't know. To me, it still feels like I'm still consuming stuff. I could have just appreciated. Well, but I got this 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's like maybe I have appreciated it enough. I don't know. But so that's the one thing that I got, and then I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I was using the Corgi V. Um,
Hmm.
am I even holding it right? No, I was holding it wrong. So this is been through one. I think by the time this episode airs, like a couple of food bank volunteering shifts,
Hmm.
and the rear flipper tab with like the jimping, that's kind of like the
The
cigar.
lighter,
What is it? Yeah, the lighter.
the lighter. Yeah.
It's pretty good for using gloves with it, work gloves with it.
Oh, nice.
But and then also the big pivot on the Vanker lock is also useful when you're gloved. The front thumb flipper is still hard for me, even
I've
like without
I've
gloves.
never.
It's pretty
That's
hard.
the one thing
Yeah,
that's the one deployment that I find really really awkward. I
yeah.
don't know what it is. Yeah.
And then the clip is nice because it is recessed, so it's not double sided, but it doesn't snag on my jeans like the Martin did.
Yeah,
So
the Martin clip is
yeah.
kind of, yeah, needs some work.
So that's kind of an update. Not much new, just the straps I got for Christmas. So
Mhm.
yeah,
So now we should probably go into the thing that all of the content creators on YouTube are doing, our
yeah,
best, our best of 2024. I think that would be interesting, especially episode 52. It's a nice 1 year point to see
sure.
what our most carried stuff was.
So we'll jump into that, but before we do that, we gotta thank today's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by our parent company, Ridge. You probably know Ridge for their iconic minimalist metal wallets. They're RFID blocking, built to last a lifetime, and backed by over 50,000 5-star reviews. But Ridge is way more than just wallets these days. They've expanded into all kinds of EDC essentials like knives, key organizers, machine pens, wedding bands, backpacks, and even hardshell luggage. I personally use their gear daily, and so do a ton of other EDCers. You can try Ridge products risk-free for 99 days to see if they fit your everyday carry. So upgrade your EDC with Ridge at ridge.com/carrytheway for 10% off your order. Supporting Ridge means you're supporting this show too, so thank you, and thanks again to Ridge for supporting this episode. So we're talking about, instead of the new news cycle kind of stuff, just doing a recap, I think, of the past year, right, Mikey? So what was our most carried and worn in the past year, 2024? Is that the question?
Yeah. So even though we go through a lot of stuff or get a lot of stuff gets sent to us, we still have like our favorites, right? The ones that we carry the most. And I just wanted to maybe recap and reflect on the ones that really stuck around and why, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can
So
start.
maybe okay, you can start. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll start.
Start.
Yeah, I'll start. So I have really adopted the EDC pouch kind of mentality, because I think I just don't want sorry, not like the EDC pouch that most of the EDC community thinks of, where it's like a caddy with a slip pocket for each specific thing and you buy something with exact dimensions for it. That's not really my speed. I'm kind of like the sort of like the one bag of pouching where it's just a big cavity and you just throw a bunch of stuff into it, and like it generally works. I kind of optimize for simplicity in that sense. I'm okay with not having a dedicated spot for everything, because again, that's like a little too much in the I need to control everything perfectly, and then if it isn't that way, then I'm gonna spiral. Like I think I've grown away from that a little bit, hopefully. So instead, I just have this pouch, and then I throw it into whatever bag I'm using, or just like have it in the back of my car or something like that. But it does have my bases covered. And in that, the two that I always kept with me is this like titanium duo of the aroundsquare base knife here. This is the Tonto version, and then the Loop Gear SKO3, I believe. Yeah. So these two were seeded. They were free. Actually, no. Did I pay for this? I think I bought this at a discount, and then this was free. But these two are like small enough, performant enough. They look cool, and I just appreciate looking at them and holding them, using them, and having them. So these two, I think, the moment I got them, have not left my rotation. That's kind of what I mean by the most carried of 2024. I have so much stuff that I can rotate in and out, but to have like actual mainstays that I've decided like I'll either keep them in or just add something on top and not actually take them out. I think that says a lot for somebody like me. So these two, for my like main functionality, I would say it's these. And then the other like phone wallet keys type situation is the carabiner that I show all the time. I'm gonna grab it really quick. Again, I carry keys like on a carabiner for as long as I can remember in EDCing, and it took this Ridge carabiner to kind of dethrone my favorite, which was the hand gray carabiner. But yeah, I was really surprised by this, and I just love that it's a little bit bigger and has this dual chamber thing, so that I can put the strap on it and kind of wear it on its own with a secondary EDC backup kit system on the keyring. So this is like just very Bernard core, the way that this is set up and how I use it. So I really like it for that. And again, you guys know like Ridge is our parent company, so this was sent to me for free and like help test it and all that kind of stuff. And then same for the wallet situation, but it's actually like not it's not the traditional Ridge wallet. It's the Bifold Ridge, so the full leather wallet, but it's still slim, and has more organization for the way that I use my cards, and I carry cash a little bit. So these two are like the mainstay in my phone wallet keys type situation. And then lastly, I'm a big watch guy, so I think my most worn watch is the Grand Seiko SBGY. There we go. 011, the Asaborake. This is a 10 millimeter thick manual wound spring drive movement from Grand Seiko, and I got this in Japan as a souvenir. And then I have it on an alligator leather strap with a like a cool deployant thing. That this is new from Deluxe as well. So I got this for Christmas, and I just threw it on this. It's cleaner than the Grand Seiko OEM one, like the strap that it comes on,
Mhm.
just because I have smaller wrists, and the Grand Seiko one, the OEM, is like pretty long. So this has kind of been the setup, and it's 40 millimeters, which I was like, oh, I think this is a little bit too big for me and my taste. But for some reason, I still
I think it looks
gravitate
fine.
towards it. Yeah,
I
it
think it
looks
looks
it
fine.
looks fine like from far away, but like when you're on the internet, people are just like, your watch is too big, your wrists are so small all the time, and it kind of got to me. But then I'm just like, actually, it looks sick, and this watch, I don't know, when the light hits it, I'm like driving or whatever, it still
Mm.
makes me have that feeling of like, damn, watches are sick, you know?
Mm. That's a
So
good, yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think like this is a good representation sort of just things that work for me, things that I enjoy, and things that make me have that feeling of like, yeah, EDC is sick, even though I've been doing this for like so long, half
Yeah.
my life, like, oh yeah, like half my life, something like that.
Mm. I like what you said about the we do get a lot of stuff to put into rotation, but then there are
Hmm.
mainstays that even if you do have something in rotation, you're not removing the thing.
Yeah,
It's additive instead of reductive.
right.
I've kind of been in the same for most of 2024. First half of the year, I don't know which episode it was. I started talking about starting to make things as light as possible because it's just so freaking hot. I remember in the summer of last year, it was intolerable. It was really,
Hmm.
really any heavy weight or anything close to the body just becomes just like sweat central, and it's just very uncomfortable and really annoying, especially living in a tropical country where there's no escaping the humidity. So at one point, I wanted to make things as light as possible, and the two key components in my light sling config for most of 2024 was this Montana knife company. This is the mini Speedgoat in Magna Cut, polished
Hmm.
Magna Cut. They had sent this over to try very, very early on before I think it was latter in the year where MKC started really taking off.
Yeah.
They even have like a whole tactical spin-off brand now. But very, very early on, I caught wind of this mini Speedgoat, which is just 1 ounce, including this paracord wrapping. So that really appealed to me
Yeah, it's
when I
barely there
started.
when I held it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super light. Really appeals to me, especially when I was started experimenting with carrying fixed blades. And I even put a lighter clip on this. This is the Ulti Clip AP, which is like the lightest way you can carry a fixed blade. It's just a wire clip. I really like wire clips in general. And then I paired this with my lightest flashlight, which is the Prometheus Beta QR V3, I believe. This is in titanium. So Jason Hoy of Prometheus Lights and 47s
Mhm.
had his team had sent this over years ago, and I just this is just the lightest thing I own. It's a triple A titanium, and it's super super light twisty. I don't know what they figured out, but they were able to get a titanium twisty not super
Gritty.
gritty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's so small. It's just the length of a finger. It's about the size of my index finger. So I just leave it in my sling, and it's just there if I need. This is 100 lumens, I believe, of really nice light. So this has been my lightweight configuration for the longest time early in the year. Latter half, I switched some slings around and I wanted to carry a lighter knife. And just like you, I went with the around square base. This is in Tanto. I like this, just like you, I've also come around to how I like the size. I've just moved away from the big honking tactical knives, and I really like this size and its utility, and it's just so handy and convenient. And I just also leave this in my sling now most of the time. I
Hmm.
like it so much I picked up the drop point version that just came out. That's on the way, so really excited. And then to match the flatness and the lightweight of this, I really like the recent EDC 23 from
From
Nitecore.
Nitecore. Yeah.
Yeah, it's their latest flat flashlight, and it's also the smallest one. And it's basically the best of all of the features of the flat ones, including the physical lock on the side and the really nice OLED screen, which I've loved the Nightcore OLED screens ever since I believe it was the Tiny SE, which had the original OLED screen. So
Mm-hmm.
I really like the any Nitecore with the OLED screen. So this has been the latter half of the year. This combination of two flat tools have been a super constant for me. And yeah, for the watches, uh, I don't actually. Now that I think about it, for most of the year, I really wasn't into watches as much. And then latter half of the year started getting into it again when I started thinking about something I could wear during the day, a little step up from the usual stuff that I have. That's when I picked up the Seiko Sumo. This is the SPDC 083. This is the Seiko Sumo. I mentioned that I'd gotten this as a commemorative life event. I had gotten a new pet after a year of wanting a new pet again, and yeah, so this is basically reminds me of getting her and now spending time with her. And everything I love about Seiko. Like just like I would say I would say attainable tier, but it's got a lot of super sick features. I like the size of it. It was really comfortable. Sapphire 6R35 movement, which has a 70-hour power reserve, which is great because I can leave it for 3 days after the weekend
Yeah,
and still
yeah.
come back to it and it's still running. I like a date window. It's got the Prospex branding. It's got the X on it. Sapphire, which not many Seikos even come with anymore. They go with the Hardlex crystal. I like the pips, the diver pips, and a lot of Lumibright Loom, of course. And yeah, really, really happy with this pickup. It's been a really meaningful watch. I mentioned when I got this that I would try and wear it every day, and I've been kind of constant with it. I would switch it up sometimes, but mostly when I'm out and about during the day, this is the watch.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the evenings, since I work nights, I wanted something really high visibility at night when walking the dog or running an errand in the evening. Sometimes I have to run a bank run or something, or like a convenience store run. And what has been with me is my Luminox. This is the original Navy SEAL 3001. They're one of their original models. And this is actually one of the lightest watches I know of. This is only 50 grams.
Oh, crazy. Yeah.
So this is crazy light. They have this Carbonox case, kind of resin type, carbon fiber type case,
Mm-hmm.
super light. And since it has a tritium tubes, it's very completely visible for the next 25 years. At night, no loom needed. And yeah, the combination of these two have been my most worn, starting at the latter half of the year. But yeah, I'm now wearing like watches all the time now. I've come around to it in a big way. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
I'm
that's
happy for you,
basically
or sorry that happened. So,
it.
yeah.
But I'm sticking to this. Yeah, I'm for
Okay.
the foreseeable future. That's gonna be, yeah, that's gonna be the pair with me. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
my
Are you sure?
year and.
Are you sure for the foreseeable future? Is there? We can move on to the next segment, which is just
Yeah,
no.
depends on if I'm gonna get on a Norwegian deep sea fishing boat.
Oh,
But yeah,
sure. Okay.
yeah,
Then,
yeah. So
so if we were to discard all of your initial monologue and think
mm,
about consuming more
yeah,
this year, what do you have your sights set on for 2025? Anything that you're trying to pick up?
I started to think that exercise of what knife would I take with me on the Norwegian fishing boat. It could be either of these two right now, but it's also that I've also wanted one knife in particular, just because it's got so much history in EDC, and it's also at the point now where I really want it because it's got the perfect combination of looks plus specs,
Mm-hmm.
which is the Chris Reeves Zan Lefty Magna Cut. So it's very specific. It only
Yeah,
came
yeah.
out last year, and I think it's now is the time to finally save up for one because it's like the ultimate CRK that I've always wanted, and it's also lefty, and it's also a Magna Cut, and it's got that. It's just that trifecta of features that I think is going to be like a uh, lifetime knife.
Knife.
We've been
Yeah.
talking about CRKs forever, and they're still around for a good reason, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's worth saving up for as like a one knife collection. So yeah, so that's one thing I may be targeting. It's they're kind of the stocks for CRKs have been really iffy for the past year, especially for the lefty versions. They drop very seldomly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna try and look for that later this year. The other thing I'm excited about is it's on the way. Um, Josh from Exceed Designs had sent it over, but it's still on the way to me, is the Exceed Designs rampant flashlight.
Oh,
And I,
I just
yeah,
have that, just like sitting in the room behind me,
I
just like
know.
unopened.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that light. I haven't been excited about a light in a while. Yeah. There hasn't been much excitement for me in the realm of flash because I have all of the ones that I want. And this is exciting for me in a lot of ways. I already talked about this in a previous episode, but it's got a new ramping system that doesn't use Anduril. Hooray!
Yeah,
Sorry,
just a new
sorry to like
UI.
this.
Yeah, and the new
Just a
like
you,
button mechanism to
yeah,
support it,
an
right?
actual physical mechanical switch to adjust the brightness rather than like a million button presses. And I'm just trying to avoid. I just like the simplicity of it
Yeah.
and the idea behind it of the simplicity. Um, so I'm excited about it. Plus, it's titanium and all of that. So all the
Mm-hmm.
good stuff that we like. So yeah, between those two, I think those are like my main targets, and I think it's a fair. Um, I think it's like in moderation
A
for an
reasonable
entire
goal.
year.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. How about you? Anything in your plate for 2025?
Well, I've already purchased it. We're 3
Oh,
days into the year. That's not true. I've
congratulations.
confirmed the sale, but it's pending funds, and I just have
Okay.
to transfer over to buy it
Mm.
when the banks are like clearing this. Anyway, it's a vintage Grand Seiko. It's like full circle at this point, I think.
Yeah.
So I've been collecting watches since I think 2018, maybe a little bit earlier. But I didn't really think of it as like being a collector. But so yeah, maybe like 2013 or something. Yeah, when I started the blog, right? Um,
What was
or
that
the
original?
website.
What was that original Seiko you had with a 36912
Yeah,
and
that's the SRPB 241K or something. I don't know. I'll
mm,
or 271K. The funny thing
mm,
is like if I try to find any information about that watch and I Google it or image search it, it's my own
it's you.
photos. Yeah, that's like that. Yeah, it's one of those things. And I remember getting that to be like a cope for the Zin EZM
Yeah,
one
Zen
because I was just
556.
like, dude, I can't afford that. No, it's
Not
the
the
EZM one.
556. Easy
No,
M1.
no,
Okay,
no, no.
right.
EZM1. It was the EZM1 is like the special forces pilot's watch or something.
Mm,
So I kind of wanted something that was like big, legible, kind of had that tool kind of look. So I got a Seiko. And
yeah,
then since then, I think in 2018, I got the SARB 033, which is like a
yeah.
classic. Anyway, I've just been a fan of Seiko. And then now that like I'm a little bit older, uh, my career is a little bit better, whatever, I was getting more of the Grand Seikos. But then
Mm,
this recent one that I got is to commemorate having done EDC for 15 years. Like it still exists now, right? And we're still running the ship. 15
mm.
years since I started the blog in 2009. But I went vintage. So I got a vintage Grand Seiko 45GS. It's the 4522-8000. And basically it's like this one, kind of, where it's a silverish dial, dual logo. So it has Seiko on the top and then Grand Seiko on the bottom. But it's a hand wound movement as well and very thin. I think 9 millimeters and much
Ooh,
smaller than this. So 36 millimeters, and it is a high beat movement. So I
now
currently
that
have
is a
like
Bernard watch.
I currently have like a manual wound regular 4 hertz higher beat 4 hertz movement. This is the spring drive movement, which is more modern. And then I also have another Grand Seiko that's high beat with a date in 37 millimeters. So again, it's just like combining what I love about like all the things I've collected over the years, like how my taste is refined, and then going vintage instead of brand new. Just because I think there's something about vintage that is intriguing to me. It's like design that's enduring, something that has had history, will continue to have history with me. And the whole idea of like you can't take it with you, all this kind of stuff, not trying to keep things super pristine, like accepting that things will age and wear, especially with watches, right? So I don't know, a lot of that kind of appeals to me. And I found a private collector on Instagram, full set, all original parts,
Wow.
really good condition. There is some patina on it, but it's like a 50-year-old watch, right?
What to
So
expect, yeah.
yeah, it's got the original crown, it's got the original medallion, gold medallion on the case back, it's got the original GS signed pin buckle for the strap. So it's very complete. And I don't know that I care so much about box and papers. It has all of that with the matching like serial to the case back. Like everything is like
I care
actually
about that.
complete and original. And
Yeah.
I'm paying a little bit more for it, but I think I'm buying the seller, and they're respected in the vintage Grand Seiko community, that kind of stuff. So that is on the way, and hopefully that's it. Hopefully, and that to me that's more of a 2024 purchase. I've been thinking about getting that for
Yeah,
because
you've mentioned to me.
2024 is the 15 years of EDC. 2025 is something else entirely different. And
Mm,
to your point of like you can't take it with you, if anything, I want to get rid of a lot of my stuff in 2025.
exactly. That's what I have been doing. That's what I've
So
spent the
I
past
want to
3 days
sell a
doing.
bunch of stuff, give stuff away,
Exactly.
pare things
Yeah.
down. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I'm trying to be really, really aggressive about it too.
Uh-huh.
Like there are some in my collection that is like, oh, I really want to hold on to it, but I haven't used it in 6 months. Do I really still want it, or do I just like the idea of it and
Yeah.
just learning to let go and get on the boat, right?
Yeah. So,
It's cool. I like that. I like that thought of 2025 as kind of like uncharted territory, but then you're taking something that represents both your ghost of EDC past while also representing all of the things that you like about the watch collecting hobby, or like the all
mhm.
of your tastes combined in
Yeah.
a watch. And plus it's all full circle Seiko, starting the journey with Seiko and ending the journey with Seiko. I think
Yeah, I
that's a
think
good
because I just finally like am admitting to myself, I just like Seiko. Just like then
yeah, I
just
mean
get the Seiko. Yeah, yeah. When
just
I
get
was
the
really
Seiko.
into like the acquisition phase of luxury watches, I was like, oh, I'll get
Mm.
Rolex, Cartier, stuff like that, and like, oh, I made it. Like, who cares? Nobody knows what watch I'm wearing. Nobody
Yeah,
cares except for
exactly
me.
right.
So like the whole like status signaling of it, like I'm so over. And like now I think it's fire if you're just wearing like an old geezer watch that's a Seiko on it. I think that is so sick now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's more of a
That
2024 purchase. So
that's such
yeah.
the crux of the watch collecting, right? That
I think there's
nobody
actually
cares
like a
about.
meme already that just says like you start Seiko, you buy like Rolex, and then you sell it and you just
Yeah.
get Seiko again. That's probably it's probably a meme.
Or like end
So
up with a Casio or
yeah,
something.
something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, really quickly before we go into the questions for the week, we still do
Mm.
those. Thanks for sticking around. We do have questions coming up.
Yeah.
But while we're doing a little bit of reflecting, what are your favorite moments on this show from last year? Because we did like what 50 episodes, right? So
Yeah.
there's plenty. We can
I was
look
just
through it. We can look through some of the just the episode titles and thumbnails together, and then
sure.
that might
Yeah.
help. So
Well,
yeah, let me.
definitely big highlight that I think I don't know if people still want to see more of those, but the interviews I think have been really, really great. If not from a view count perspective, but the more the discussion that
Mm-hmm.
happens and the rapport we build with the interviewees and how we prepare for it
Right.
and how we the discussions that come out of it. I think the if anybody wants to watch the back catalog, the interviews are really, really good ones because we get really, really nerdy with the hosts that go on to those episodes. I really like
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
So when we started, the first couple of episodes were just like us yapping with no structure, right? Um, and then last year we started doing the interview. So we had This Is Antoine on, and we talked about EDC and how it pertains to like clothing, and then techwear is a good example of that.
Mhm.
Um, and then this one was fun, just like the how to travel with your EDC, or just like
Yeah.
don't just don't do that. Uh, but I think my favorite interview, we've done a few, but I really like the one with Matt from Around Square,
Yeah.
where that was I think like maybe the first episode where I let myself just like go full like kind of philosophical, abstract, conceptual. Especially since we're talking about fidget toys, and that one seemed to do pretty well. I think that was pretty well received. Yeah,
Plus, I still remember before and after that interview, you were kind of like lukewarm about the whole mindfulness tools and the whole I don't know, the negative connotation of fidget toys in EDC specifically for a while, and you were also not really into the knife initially as well. And then
yeah.
after that interview, you were like, hey, Mikey, I just bought some of the bracelets, and then I
Okay.
really like the knife."
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I wasn't like buying a bunch of those like pocket trash type things because I was like,
Mhm.
oh, mindfulness is so. and I still stand by this, by the way. I'm like,
Yeah,
mindfulness is something that you can access for free. Okay. You
true.
don't need all that kind of stuff. But by talking to Matt and having that discussion, I became more open to the exploration of those things,
Hmm.
and not necessarily pilled either way, right?
Yeah,
But it was just a very, I think, insightful conversation that could be useful. I was just proud to have had that conversation on the platform that we've built, to have that message shown to more people, because I do think it's like a pretty
yes,
controversial and not very well understood thing in the EDC
yeah,
scene. So I was glad that we were kind of able to at least present that argument for it, and I was surprised and pleasantly surprised. So, and I do carry the like aroundsquare stuff still every
yeah.
day. Like I have the beads in my pocket and then the knife in my pouch. So I thought that was really cool, especially if you guys are like into the more like philosophical stuff. Um, some of you are, then that one is a pretty good episode. But on the very other like end of that, where it's just like pure gear nerdery, dude, like the art and science of night design with Joe Caswell, that
Oh yeah,
is a super slept on episode. I think it's like 90 minutes, only 500 views. I think it's so good. If you like knives and you just want to know how a knife designer thinks, that one is so
yeah.
cool. I really like that.
I feel
So
like we prepared really well for that, and then on top of that, Joe was really receptive and
mhm.
really gave insightful answers. And yeah, we don't not often. I think also that Joe gets to really nerd out about it. I think
Yeah,
so. I think that was a nice back and forth between us. I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is by the way, if you guys want to see the older back catalog, so from 2023 and then the first half of 2024, it's on our main channel. So just YouTube everyday.com/everydaycarry. Then like halfway into the year, we decided to move everything over mid-season to this channel that you're watching now. So thank you for subbing to that. And we we started cooking, I think, this year with like different stuff going on. We have a new format, we tried different things, and you know, I thought it was cool to like have this new repeatable format, because we get to talk about so many more things now, rather than like having to make a theme and then try to prepare a show around it. It's just like
Yeah.
whatever's going on, whatever people send us, whatever people are curious about, whatever we get
Yeah.
sent, like that's what we can make the show about. And that has been pretty fun to try to put stuff together every week. And
And it's
there's a
also
lot.
really nice now in this format where our audience has become really
Yeah,
integral
engaged.
to the
Yeah.
show, and they send us really really good questions that let us go on these philosophical
Mm.
tangents. And a lot of the time, the questions that get sent by the audience becomes the theme of the show, becomes the title of the show,
Yeah, yeah.
becomes and I really do appreciate that people not only carried over to the new channel. They've brought us up to 1,000 subs. It's going to open up new opportunities for us also to grow the channel now
Mhm.
that we've hit that milestone. Now that we've hit 50 plus episodes, I think this year might be better and better, basically.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
any favorites that you would recommend that people check out if they're new to the show from like this channel? Because this how to build the perfect EDC keychain is our most viewed, and there were
Mm.
like some pretty solid tips in there, and we had the discussion about like fixed blade versus folders as well. And then
Mm.
I kind of just nerded out about keychains for a long time, and then the last episode, if people are like brand new, this one also did well, where we talked about like what to not buy, which kind of synergizes with some of today's themes. Um, yeah.
I like the most popular episodes are the ones that are kind of standing out to me as well.
Hmm.
The underrated stuff that we carry. We were talking about the Game Boy and tea bags in that one. I think
Uh huh.
um, we started talking about in episode 43 the building an EDC to last the rest of our lives. So kind of like along the lines of the stuff you'd carry in the fishing boat, right? The
Right.
forever
Right.
EDC basically. And I think it really resonated with us as well. The how to get yourself out of an EDC rut. I mean, the fact that I went through that whole thing this past holiday break means that
Hmm.
even we are not immune to getting into ruts and into a mental and physical EDC ruts ourselves.
Yeah.
Even though we've been doing this for so long, and we are not immune to it. We are not immune to the social media aspect of it. We're not immune to the acquisition aspect of it. So it's nice that we processed that and talked about that. I think that was a really interesting episode as well. And and I think most recently in episode 48, the perfect EDC doesn't exist. I think that's the one where we started, where I mentioned that the switch that got flipped, where I started to see the EDC as tools rather than the things to just be
Mm.
collected, and started being okay with them getting damaged and growing with me and aging with me and getting um, being actual useful utility objects rather than things to keep in a drawer and keep preserved all this time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I will give a shout out to our like lowest performing video. Why does all EDC feel the same now? I think it's
yeah.
because we put a benchmade in the thumbnail. I don't know, but I think this was still a pretty interesting episode where we kind of talked about this phenomenon of the crossbar lock knife being so popular. Why is
Yeah,
that the case? Is there any innovation? Is there anywhere else to go for EDC next?
yeah.
But I don't know. That one didn't do well. So if you want to support the channel, like go back into the catalog and look at this, and maybe like it'll help. I think that one's also worth a listen. And anyway, we have
I
put out many hours of content. I do just want to thank everybody who tune in every week and like spend that time with us, because
yeah.
I know time is finite, and I just appreciate that people are sharing it with us.
Hopefully at 1.5x speed as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
oh well, yeah, one last thing. I liked episode 46 where we talked about the old stuff that we can't get anymore.
Mm.
And it's funny, I just remembered it because I was talking about the CRK Zan in the last segment, and I was thinking that's still around and that's like stood the test of time, and I appreciate it for lasting that long,
Yeah.
versus other stuff that I wish were still around. Yeah,
Mm.
just thought about that. Yeah, that Atwood pry bar is still still the one we want. Yeah,
Nice. Why don't we jump into questions now?
sure. Speaking of audience engagement,
Okay, so here are the questions for this week. We have a lot of good questions. I think we're getting a lot more of our followers just like interested in participating in the podcast, which is amazing. So I don't think that we can get to all of them in this episode just because of how long this episode has been going, but we will definitely try our best to get to as many of them as possible over the next few episodes. Really good questions in here, and I just want to thank everybody for doing that. And if you want a question to be potentially answered on the show, you can follow us on Instagram at Everyday Carry. You might have to like search for us because it's hard to find us with the way that like Facebook and Instagram kind of restrict accounts that show knives. So sorry, but yeah, find us, and then on Mondays we'll post a story where you can send in responses, and we'll probably cook up something a little bit better. Instagram has like broadcast channels and stuff like that where the features will be a little bit more conducive to this. But anyway, let's just jump into some questions here. What do you want to go with first? I think we could do an easy one from David Kema 23 asks, what was that first EDC gear item that really got you down to the rabbit hole?
mm.
For me, the one lumen incandescent AAA Maglite Solitaire. And it's not that it was so good that I was like, EDC is sick, and now I'm in the rabbit hole. It was
Yeah.
so bad that I thought there must be something better. And I went down that rabbit hole, searching like, this cannot be the best pocket flashlight. And that's how I found Candle Power Forums. That's how I found like the Phoenix
Four sevens.
E01, 47's Quark, like all those older stuff, right? And then
Yeah.
now I got in the room behind me this insane enthusiast flashlight from Exceed Designs that has like its own new like tactile switch with a new UI. So that's kind of what got me down that rabbit hole, I would say.
We've come a long way from one lumen
I
Megalon
know.
solitaires. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. For me, I've mentioned it a few times already. The movie Kick Ass was the pivotal one for me because
Mm-hmm.
of the Benchmade 42 classic.
Yep.
Uh, one half of the equation, the other one was the flashlight, a fictional flashlight that the character Hit Girl was using in the movie, which had an insane strobe on it. We do get strobe like that now in modern flashlights. So I have one here from the Nitecore EDC23. But that particular scene of how she used the strobe was what got me interested in
Mm.
flashlights in general. So a lot of people also started EDC journeys or watch journeys with James Bond, just from the whole nature of his watches and gadgets
Yeah.
and everything, right? The But for me, the one that really got me to watches and the whole that whole mindset as well was, of course, Jason Bourne for me, and that's the watch I was wearing today. 20 years later, I managed to track down his watch. This is the Tag Heuer CT1111, and this represents everything I love about EDC and watches and movies all in one watch. So if the vintage Seiko is your full circle, this is the full
Mm,
circle for me. This is the Grail watch for me.
yeah. So
And I managed to acquire it exactly 20 years after the movie came out. Everything, all the planets aligned. I had the money for it. I found a perfect, complete example on eBay, which was authenticated and perfectly. Everything was above board, and celebrating the 20th anniversary of the movie as well. Perfect. This is just like
yeah.
absolute EDC watch collecting perfection for me. So this is going to be absolute permanent connection, permanent collection for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully a
So
permanent
these two,
connection as well.
yeah.
So there's some
So
I
these
think
two,
there's something to be said that stands out there from your little anecdote about like just appreciating circumstance where when the
mm,
planets align and the opportunities there and the
yeah,
thing just comes across, right? And instead of where now it's like there is less circumstance in the acquisition of stuff because you could just
yeah,
like go to the website and buy the thing and then get it
yeah.
instantly, right? It's a little bit different. I think that's part of why, at least for me in my like the watch collecting journey, I'm going towards vintage because it's a little bit more of a hunt. It's a little bit more effort, a little bit more payoff, and then it just feels like there's just a little more intention there rather than just like add to cart, Amazon
I
Prime.
am
But
actually curious how people are new to the hobby are starting their journey now. There hasn't been, I in my opinion, there hasn't been as iconic James Bond moments as the previous 60s,
mm,
70s, 80s ones. You know, the Omega Seamaster has been like forever.
yeah, are you talking about watches
Casio
specifically or
watches
just EDC?
specifically,
Oh, okay.
watches specifically, and even EDC gear. Who you just see generic flashlights now, like generic tactical
Mm,
stuff, mostly now.
I mean,
But
I have an idea.
there hasn't been like a Rambo knife moment in a while. You know what I'm saying? There
Mm,
hasn't been like the even the like the Benchmade 42. This has been like the what we call the contrabida knife for Philippine cinema forever. It's like
oh,
the villain knife since the
mm-hmm.
80s, since the 70s. So I don't know. It's very rare now, I think, for um, recent history. I know, like the Jack. I'm a big fan of the Jack Carr stuff. He's very gear oriented. But how about from your perspective? Where do you
For watches.
for watches or for gear in general?
For gear in general, I'm not too sure because there's so much out there now, and you can just see a bunch of it on social media, and it's kind of
Mm,
hard to tell. But for watches, I would say stuff like cultural moments like the Moon's Watch release, like that
mm,
got people hype and getting into
yeah.
watches. And then I think just like the main online discussion forums where watch enthusiasts like gather. So for example, Reddit, right? There are memes of like the Reddit starter pack when it comes to watch collecting, right? There's just like the few and big creators, I think on YouTube, for example, especially ones that are beginner oriented, like Teddy Baldassar. I love Teddy Baldassar videos, but it's like
Yeah.
those are you'll probably find people with a collection that's like heavily based on that person's influence. So
Right. Right.
I think that's kind of where that comes from, at least now, how people learn. But that kind
Yeah.
of leads into the second question that I
Sure.
think would be really fun to look over, which would
Leatherman.
be no, 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 no.
More.
Erickson F asks, "What are the basics for a good everyday carry?" And this
Oof.
should be like, and then we're already like over an hour, and this could be like another hour easily. But I think I will just give some clip notes, in my opinion, of what to do, just a starting point, right, for
Floor is
understanding the
yours.
EDC basics, right? So I would say understand the core principles of EDC. So what does that mean? There's things like there's so many phrases, right? When it comes to learning EDC, cover your bases. What does that even mean? Two is one is none. It's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Then there's concepts like the light, slice, and write, or the EDC holy trinity or trifecta. So I think if you understand some of these concepts that get thrown around a lot, it will help you just understand what would be good for a basic EDC. And we can really quickly do this. When people say cover your bases, they just mean have some kind of tool that can perform a functionality for a use case that you need. And usually it refers to having a multi-tool to cover a bunch of stuff, a flashlight to cover your illumination, a knife, a dedicated knife to handle cutting tasks, right? So there's that aspect. Then there's the idea of two is one and one is none. This goes into minimalism versus redundancy. So having backups of things. So once you have only one, if that thing fails, it's basically like you don't have anything. So that's the one is none. And sometimes it's better to have two things. So that's why I carry a backup EDC pouch or a backup keychain EDC and then have stuff in my pockets. Then there's the idea of like it's better to have and not need than to need and not have. This kind of depends on your preference and your philosophy, but it's basically advocating for carry more than you think you would need, just in case. There's a lot of people that use EDC to prepare for that what if situation rather than just like keep it really dialed and streamlined. And we've done a whole episode about this, like minimalism versus maximalism and redundancy. So you can look in our archives for that. And then there's just some basic like catchphrases, I guess, for how to structure what goes into your EDC. So there's this idea of light, slice, and write. And that basically means have a flashlight, have a knife, and have a pen, because you can't do those. I was going to say you can't do those things with your phone, but you can kind of do two of them with your phone already. Uh, and then there's
it's the concept of the things that humans can't do naturally
with their own hands. Yeah.
With their own bodies.
Yeah. And then the last one is this idea of like an EDC Holy Trinity or trifecta. And I believe it's the multi-tool, knife, and flashlight, right? Because that covers like all your bases, which is the first thing we talked about. So yeah. So when people say like, oh, you got like the EDC trifecta, your bases are covered, it's like, what are you even saying, bro? It's like that's what they mean. You have functionality across the board in these three items. Okay.
Yeah.
So with that understanding, the next thing I would say is meet yourself where you are. Meaning, if you're gonna build an EDC, start with things you already carry, then piggyback onto it. And for me, I think that's really keys. That might change soon. Before it could be wallets, right? Like you can slim down your wallet, but now some people don't even carry wallets because of like electronic wallets. So I would say start with your keychain, which is something I've been doing forever, because you carry your keys anyway, and it doesn't cost too much or weigh you down too much to add like a Swiss Army knife to it or a little flashlight, and then see if like those are useful for you, and then build off of that. If you find those things functional and useful for you in your day to day, then you can invest in bigger versions of it, I would say. But the next point, don't rush it. You're going to see people with full curated loadouts on the show, maybe on our Instagram, stuff like that. And it's tempting to just buy all the stuff that you see, but it takes time to understand what actually works for you, what you need, what your preferences are. And that really does take time to develop that taste. And to the point of Mikey and his New Year thoughts of, what was it, the ghost of Christmas present, your ability to use those things. Yeah. Your ability to use those things and understand how to use them and be proficient with those things, it will take time. Not everyone's going to buy like a knife and then know like how to easily like reverse flick it and spidey drop it, all that stuff, like the best way to sharpen it, like all of that takes time, right? So I would say you don't need to rush. And then because when you do rush and you accumulate all the stuff, you might run into the stress of what I call the burden of ownership. You have all these things, you need to make decisions, you need to maintain all of that stuff. It all adds up and becomes not super fun. And then when you don't use them because it's not fun, then there's the guilt of not using the stuff that you spent money on too. Yeah. So there's like a bunch of stuff. So I would say don't rush it. And then the last point that I would give to this viewer is remember that this is for you. EDC is personal. So don't be too swayed by what people on the internet like me are telling you to do.
The hardest part. Hardest part for sure.
Yeah. EDC is a personal thing. So this is for you, and remember that. And then just do things at your own pace, what makes sense for you. You can look to other things and like other people like us for an idea, right? For some inspiration. But at the end of the day, we're just two dudes, different sides of the world on a screen. We can't really tell you what to do. So yeah.
I think that last point is the most important one, because you will be bombarded in both social media and also the EDC communities. It's easy to see somebody else post a collection of 10 $500 flashlights, and you'll be like, oh my God, I have so much catching up to do. But
Mm-hmm.
rather than that mindset of comparing and acquisition, which is really the trap that even I fall into
Yeah, me
constantly,
too. Yeah.
um, it's really it might be helpful to just frame it from, oh, that exists, but it might not be completely
Yeah.
for me. Maybe worth trying, but you don't need also the same 10 cool flashlights over $500, or you don't need to have the same mega collections like everybody else is sharing. A lot of people want to share to be seen, but you
Mm,
know
yep.
um
Validated. Yeah.
to be validated, but just I would suggest really just go slow. Don't rush it, like Bernard said. Don't go into debt over EDC.
Mm-hmm.
Also guilty. So I'm more. It's such a deep rabbit hole with so many pitfalls in between: watches, knives, flashlights, bags, and then combinations of all of those. It gets so overwhelming. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, go on the mental fishing boat and try and really narrow down and try and really experience more rather than before purchasing more, and make friends. See if you can join meetups and see if you can try out other people's gear rather than going all in and buying all of it yourself. I think that's a fun way to be part of
Oh,
the
true.
community,
Yep.
and also
Save on the wallet a little bit.
save on the wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also still have fun and experience and get to be a part of the community and talk to other like-minded people without committing financially to the gear itself,
Mm-hmm.
and have fun more with the people rather than with the gear. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's
Great addition. Erickson F, if you're curious, I would look at on our old channel. I think there's like even what is everyday carry, just the earlier ones. We kind of talk about these topics a little bit more, just like the basics, I think, in our first few episodes. And then on the channel itself, like I did something like how to get your first budget knife and stuff like that, right? So there's a bunch of content out there. We have a guide on our website, everydaycarry.com, that might be useful for you as well. But hopefully that's like good food for thought to get things started for you. So thank you to Erickson F for that question. And then, do we have any other questions you want to do for today?
I think that is a lot.
Yeah, I think that was a
Yeah,
lot for this episode.
yeah,
So, by the time that this episode airs, we would have already run our giveaway. Is that correct, Mikey?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will just update you guys with the what is it?
No,
The
we're
results of it.
gonna. Yeah, so we will be cutting into the segment where we pick the winner from last week's episode. By the time this
Yes.
airs, you would have seen that episode that has gone out on the Monday, and you would have had a week to do our instructions to join the giveaway. And now, after we make a cut, you'll see us probably change outfits and begin the process of selecting the winner for that. And we will send out a curated EDC as a part of us reaching the 1,000 subscriber milestone.
Yeah.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
we will also discuss the mechanics of how to join and win for succeeding giveaways.
So stick around for that. So we just ran our first giveaway, and you guys had the past week to get your entries in, and there were 54 unique entrants. So thank you all for participating, and we're just gonna run a wheel spin here to see who wins our first Carried Away podcast giveaway. All right, drum roll. I'm gonna click it.
Good odds for 54.
Yeah, Josh White 81. If you know, you know. And apparently Josh did. So congrats to Josh White 81. Be sure to send us an email and follow those instructions, and we'll get you hooked up with your own set of EDC gear courtesy of the show. So thanks everyone for participating. We're going to have more of these giveaways regularly throughout the year. So make sure you're subscribed. Not that it's a requirement, but if you want to get in on more of these giveaways, a subscription would really help. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you after the jump. We'll save the user submissions for the next episode. This one was a little bit long, and we're trying to cram in a bunch of stuff. So if you're looking for more EDC submission reviews. We'll do that in a bit. But thank you for watching today's episode. We're just about wrapped up for today. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to hit the subscribe, share with a friend, and follow us on socials. And if you want to be a part of our EDC community, feel free to hop into our Facebook group or Discord server for more real-time discussion with other EDCers. Lastly, if you have any feedback for us or questions you want answered on the show, you can shoot us an email at podcast@everydaycarry.com. Thank you so much for listening to Carry the Way. I'm Bernard.
And I'm Mikey, and we'll see you on that boat.
Until the next one, peace.